Hello, everybody. Today we're going to be doing the best case scenario for the Democrats in the 2020 Senate election. I had a Republican um, best case scenario prediction yesterday, and today we're going to be doing the Democrat best case scenario in 2020. So, safe Democrat seats will be Oregon, Illinois, New Mexico, Virginia, all of these, the usual stuff, as well as Minnesota would be a safe Democrat seat. So very different map already from what you would have seen before. Save Republican seats. Alaska. Forgot to click Alaska. Nebraska. Oklahoma. South Dakota. And that's about it for safe Republican seats. There's 41 seats. And that's what Republicans would have as safe seats. So now let's go to the likely Democrat seats. Likely Democrats would be Michigan. Gary Peters isn't the incumbent, and he did win in 2014, and he's going in with an advantage. It is obviously a more Democratic state, obviously going up against a harder competitor in John James, but I do think he could still carry the state in the best case scenario by 10 to 15 point margin. Same with New Hampshire, incumbent. I'm not sure if it's actually an incumbent, but do think could win by the same margins as Gary Peters. Also, North Carolina. I think it's Cal Cunningham. I may be wrong. I think I'm wrong. But the senator of North Carolina, I'm not as familiar with all the senators as I would have liked to be. But I do think that um, especially if you look at the polls, he's doing really well in the state. I think he could win that state by a big margin. Um, and I think he could win by a likely margin. Same with the other three states. I know it's a toss up right now, but in the Democrat best case scenario, he'd win that by a lot. Similar to what Marco Rubio did in Florida in 2016. Now, for likely Republican states, we're going to go, and there's not going to be many of them. It's going to be Kentucky and Alabama, and that's about it for likely. And South Carolina would all be likely. Mitch McConnell's seat would be a little more vulnerable. Same with Lindsey Graham. If you look at the recent polling, I still think they'll win similar to Michigan and New Hampshire, but they'll all win their seats. And Republicans, I think, will take Doug Jones' seat. Uh, I know Jeff Sessions wasn't the nominee for the Republicans, but I do think that they could still take it. As for lean Democrat seats, is Maine. They would take Susan Collins' seat. Montana. Oh, and I forgot something. Colorado would be likely. Arizona would be lean. So that obviously now gives the Democrats a majority in the Senate. And Iowa would be a lean Democrat seat. Joni Ernst would, and the polls do suggest that the Democrats up by 0.5%. That could be vulnerable for Republicans, and the Democrat could pick that up by a lean margin, maybe even tilt, but I'll go with lean in the best case scenario. Arizona, I know John Kelly is up by a lot more than the Democrat is in Iowa, but I still think when it comes down to it, Arizona is not as, I mean, it's going Democratic, obviously, but it's not as going as fast as many people think it is going. It still has its Republican identity. It still has a Republican governor, a Republican senator, um, and there's a chance it could get two Democrat senators, but it still has a Republican identity. And I know the polls reflect something else right now, but I still think that if it wasn't the Democrats' best case scenario, they would still only pick it up by a lean margin. As for lean Republican states, we have Kansas and Texas, all leaning Republican. John Cornyn, obviously pretty popular in Texas. Chris Kobach, luckily, was not the nominee in Kansas for the Republican Party, or else I would give it to the Democrats, but he was not. So the Republicans still gain or keep their seats, actually. And for Georgia at large will go to the Republican candidate. I don't think that's low for a seat. Um, it's going to be close. If you look at the Georgia governor election between Stacey Abrams and Brian Kemp, very close, and it has been trending blue. But I still think it will remain in the Republican column. It has a little bit of a stronger identity in Republican support than Arizona, and I think Republicans could keep one of the seats, but I do think Lori Loeffler's seat, I think that's how I pronounce it, will go to the Democrats, giving them a 53 seat to 47 seat majority in the Senate. assuming Joe Biden wins. So that is a Democrat majority. That is the best case scenario for Democrats, in my opinion. I don't think they're going to get it better than that. Um, if you gonna, I mean, if you're gonna, if I was gonna be insanely generous, obviously I would give, but I just don't think, I just don't see this possible. But like I did in the last video, I could say they could win Georgia, Texas, Kansas, Alabama in the biggest possible landslide they could get. But I don't see that happening. I see that going to the Republicans. So I'm going to change it all to one color so you guys can see what the new Senate map, in my mind, will look at for the best case scenario for the Democrats on November 4th, assuming all the votes are counted by then. What am I forgetting? Oh, Kentucky. Mitch McConnell's seat. 53-47. Democrats have the Senate, obviously, in their best case scenario. Republicans did do better, did outperform Democrats, and that's because Republicans are in an advantage with the Senate, just like Democrats are in an advantage with the Electoral College. Republicans have an advantage in the Senate, especially since they have a lot of seats like Wyoming, South Dakota, Idaho, Nebraska, which have very few little population, but they get equal representation in Congress, which I do believe in. I do believe in equal representation, and Republicans do have an advantage here. So 53-47, a Democrat win. Thank you guys for watching. Please stay tuned for more videos, and I hope you guys enjoy. Have a nice